The Steam Deck, Asus ROG Ally and the AYANEO Pocket Air handhelds are excellent at what they do, but the price isn't for everyone. When a handheld costs more than a PlayStation 5, not everyone is going to want to drop that level of cash on just the one thing. But when it comes to budget handhelds, you're often rolling a dice. If you bought a Steam Deck or Asus ROG Ally, chances are you'll be happy with whichever console you get. With budget handhelds, you'll either get something that's killer value like the Retroid Pocket, or you'll get something that's cheap and haphazardly thrown together like the Retro Mini. I've lost count how many times something seemed good on paper only to turn out to be less impressive than was advertised. The Super Pocket handheld thankfully avoids the trappings that come with budget handhelds, and the end result is a cost-effective device that beats out all other consoles at this price point. Despite only being equipped with a 2.8-inch IPS display that renders at 320 by 240 pixels, the Super Pocket really packs a knockout punch. The screen's brightness is enough to see clearly and the colour gamut is clean. What I'm really impressed with is how Hypermegatech has handled these display options. It's possible to play games on the Super Pocket in either the original ratio, full screen, or for the most hardcore retro enthusiasts out there, pixel perfect. Now, this varies from game to game, but pixel perfect is the sharpest way to play. Pixels in that mode appear more square and look more like they're intended rather than how they're rendered by whichever emulator is being used. This does shrink the screen ever so slightly, but it's not a massive change. If you do pick one of these up, I'll tell you now, the first thing to do is go into the display settings and turn that on. That along with turning down the volume, because this thing is ear-shatteringly loud with the default settings. While we're on the subject of audio, let's dig into the speakers a little bit. They're fine. Just fine. For the price, I wasn't expecting something as vibrant as the ROG Ally, but they do the job. At higher volumes, they're insufferable though, and they don't have a particularly strong range. Audio layers sound almost mushed together. But again, this is a budget handheld we're talking about. Price is going to be key for a lot of these drawbacks. Compared with the Retro Mini though, these speakers are great for the price point. One area where the Super Pocket beats the competition easily is through the use of responsive and smart buttons. The face buttons, that's A, B, X and Y, start and select, and the menu buttons all have a nice amount of bounce to them. I could always feel when I pressed them and they popped straight back up without any issue. None as of yet have gotten caught in the shell while playing, which isn't something you can say for a lot of these cheaper retro handhelds. They're all positioned well too. I never felt like I was overstretching to press anything. The D-pad, however, is a revelation. If there's one thing I've learned when reviewing handhelds, it's that circular D-pads will either be fantastic or utter trash. The Super Pocket's D-pad may well be the best sub $100 D-pad I've ever used. In Street Fighter 2 I was able to pull off quarter inputs and full 360 degree rotations, and the D-pad registered them with ease. Normally with retro handhelds they'll be able to do simple things like quarter inputs, think like a Hadouken. But the moment you try a full 360 degree rotation, the D-pad will struggle to register the direction as intended. That simply isn't a problem with the Super Pocket. Everything I threw at it worked, and when I was trying to pull off intricate combos, there was no problem whatsoever. If a combo didn't get picked up, it's probably because I'm getting old. As for the volume buttons, you'll find them on the back of the console, and while it's not in a natural position, it's less of an issue than the awkwardly placed back buttons. Admittedly, this is a problem with small handhelds, and no company so far seems to have an adequate solution to this issue just yet. The problem is, when a device is just 4.8 inches in height, the only option is to ram the triggers and bumpers somewhere on the back. Hypermegatech attempted to solve this issue by turning all 4 top buttons into buttons along the middle back of the console. The end result of this mythology is an R1 and L1 that are easy to press, and an R2 and L2 that are unusable in certain games due to how uncomfortable they are to press. It's exacerbated by the fact our index fingers play a part in holding the actual console. Going back to Street Fighter 2, pressing R2 and L2 to perform a heavy attack meant I needed to move my fingers outwards to hit the buttons, which resulted in me losing my grip on the console itself. I could use the pad of my hands to grip the handheld, but doing that meant I put my fingers in a crab-like pose. It's not comfortable. Worse still, I couldn't find an option to remap the controls to something more natural either. That's a shame. For most 8-bit and 16-bit games, you won't need those back buttons at all. It's the same problem seen in the Miu Mini, Powkiddy and Anbernic vertical handhelds. And as I say, nobody's found a solution to this. The operating system takes on an almost Switch-like approach with its scrollable box art. The single-colour background is maybe a little uninspired, but it does the job. It's minimalist for sure, and that's fine. Hypermegatech didn't say what the processor of the Super Pocket is using, but I'd imagine it's something fairly low spec given the low cost of the device. It is, after all, only designed to play 8 and 16-bit games. Moving on, the main menu brings up 3 options. You've got your built-in games, that's from either Capcom or Taito depending on which version you picked up. An option to play games from an inserted Evercade cartridge, and the settings menu, the latter of which lets you change a handful of options like volume, display type, and whether you want to play arcade games on easy mode or as they're intended. I'm not 100% sold on the easy mode option at this point. Street Fighter 2, for example, doesn't have a difficulty menu in game, and some fights really spike in difficulty even with easy mode turned on. As for in-game, the menu brings up save, load, the specific games controls, the display options, reset and quit. As I say, it's a minimalist approach and I'd wager it needs to be like this due to the lack of power inside the handheld. That said, compare it with something like the Anbernic RG350. The operating system in the Super Pocket is much less of an eyesore. For those who don't know, the Super Pocket comes in 2 versions, that's Capcom and Taito. The Capcom version comes in blue with a yellow trim and a host of Capcom games pre-installed. The Taito version, meanwhile, has a mostly black decor with a green trim and, as you'd expect, a host of Taito games. The 18 games the Super Pocket Taito comes with include Bubble Bobble, Kadash, Chak and Pop, Don Doko Don, Elevator Action, Football Champ, Growl, Kiki Kai Kai, Liquid Kids, Operation Wolf, Puzzle Bobble, Rastan, Space Invaders 91, The Fairyland Story, The Legend of Cage, The New Zealand Story, and Volfeed. And the Capcom Super Pocket comes with the following games: 1942, 1943, 1944 The Loop Master, Bionic Commando, Captain Commando, Final Fight, Forgotten Worlds, Ghost and Ghouls, Mega Man, Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting, Strider, and Wolf of the Battlefield Mercs. Fewer games, but probably more recognisable ones. Which version out of the 2 should you get? That all comes down to the type of games you prefer. The Capcom version is more fighting focused, but I'd argue the Taito offering has more adventure style titles. I've been testing the Super Pocket with my own collection of Evercade cartridges as well, and so far they all work on the device without any issues whatsoever. Good stuff. That means I can get my Earthworm Jim fix wherever I want. In the under $100 price bracket, the only real alternative options to consider here are the Miu Mini and the RG3XX. There are other handhelds available, but they're mostly mass-produced toys that barely work, so I won't be giving them any airtime. With the Miu Mini, it's a lovely device, but I'd argue at 3.5 inches, it's too small to really game comfortably on. As for the RG3XX from Anbernic, it's the same size as the Miu Mini, so the same problems that plague that system exist on the RG3XX. If you're looking to spend more and want more power, the next best option would be the Retroid Pocket 3, but that comes with a change in design. It's horizontal instead of vertical. It's also worth noting, only the Evercade and Super Pocket let you play Evercade cartridges. That's an important consideration as other systems rely on illegally obtained ROMs to play games. And that's not me throwing shade, that's just a fact. If you want to support companies so they release their older games on a modern system, the Evercade family of consoles is the only way to do that in a physical format. At $59.99 or £49.99, the Super Pocket is easily the best budget console out there. Sure, it has its imperfections, but it nails what matters. The screen is crisp, the battery life of 4 hours is more than enough, and the front face buttons and D-pad are excellent. And it's only $60. I need to say that twice, it's so good. Given how varied the back catalogue of Evercade carts are, there's something for every kind of retro gamer to be found on the Super Pocket. The games included will only impress if you're a fan of the originals, but that's expected. Opinions and all that. Simply put, if you're looking for a handheld that doesn't break the bank and offers up quality alongside the ability to truly own your physical games, you won't go wrong with the Super Pocket. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to subscribe, that'd be awesome. Until next time, see ya.